Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your dream is way bigger than your reality? Like embarrassingly bigger? Today, I'm sharing the story of a guy who had zero money, no laptop, and absolutely no support. Just one stubborn thing, a dream that refused to die. By day, he was invisible, blending into the crowd like background noise. By night, he stood outside a sleek glass skyscraper, wearing a security guard uniform, literally watching software engineers live the life he desperately wanted. While the rest of the city slept or binged Netflix, he was out there studying code on a cracked phone screen. Cold nights, tired eyes, zero excuses. And one day, the guard who stood outside the building walked inside as a software engineer. This isn't just a story. This is proof that nothing is impossible. Don't blink, because this story might just change the way you see your own life. Part 1. The Boy Who Watched from the Window. My name is Ethan. I was born in a small, forgotten town in the Midwest where people didn't dream. They adjusted. The streets were noisy, the apartments were tight, and the sky always looked like it had no space for people like us. I grew up in a working-class family, the kind no one makes movies about. We weren't poor, but let's just say we were always living paycheck to paycheck. My father was a tired man. He worked 12 hours a day as a mechanic, hands permanently covered in grease, back always bent. He never complained, but you could feel the heavy silence in his eyes. My mother was the backbone of everything. She woke up before sunrise, packed lunchboxes, handled the bills like a magician, and made sure we smiled, even when she didn't have time to eat herself. We lived in a rented one-bedroom apartment, one rattling AC unit that sounded like a lawnmower, one leaking faucet, and one dream inside my chest that felt way too big for those thin walls. I remember standing near the window every evening, watching people drive by in their shiny Mercedes, laughing with their families, music playing, windows rolled down. I wasn't jealous, honestly, but I wondered, how do people get a life like that? What did they do right? That we didn't? Will I ever sit in a car like that? While other kids played video games, I had a different obsession. I would walk 2 miles to the public library and just stare at the computer screens, lines of code, digital worlds, people building things with just their minds. That's when I first heard the word, software engineer. It felt like magic to me. People who didn't use hammers or wrenches, they used thoughts. They created things out of nothing. And in that moment, I decided I will become one of them. Even though I had no computer, I had no internet at home. I didn't speak the tech jargon well, and I definitely didn't know anyone who worked in Silicon Valley. Still, I believed. I believed in something I couldn't even touch yet. But dreams don't pay rent. One night, I heard my parents whispering, "He's a good kid, but we don't have money for college. Maybe he should just take a job and help us out." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But something inside me broke. How do you chase a dream when your parents are drowning in debt? So at 17, I made a decision that changed everything. I put my dream in a corner and picked up a security guard uniform. I became the boy who once dreamed of a career in tech, now guarding it from the outside. Every night at 9 p.m., I stood in front of a tall glass skyscraper downtown. Inside, people stayed warm in climate-controlled offices, writing code, designing apps, living the life I once saw on a screen. Outside, I stood still in the cold wind, wearing a dull uniform, holding a flashlight. And every night I told myself, Ethan, this is not the end. You're not stuck. You're just paused. At night, I stood silently in front of those shining offices. While the city slept, I was wide awake. But not just to guard. I was awake to observe, to learn, to build the future no one thought was possible for someone like me. The building I guarded was full of software engineers, people who had everything I wanted. They walked past me every night with confidence in their walk, laptops in their backpacks, ID badges on their chests, and purpose in their eyes. And I was just the security guard to them. Some didn't even look at me. Some nodded. None of them knew that I was watching. Not them, but the life I wanted. I had a small, cracked smartphone. It couldn't run games. It could barely stay on for 2 hours. But it had one thing I needed: YouTube. Every break I got, I would sit in a corner of the parking garage and search. What is coding? How to become a software engineer? What is JavaScript? HTML tutorial for beginners. Sometimes the videos buffered for 10 minutes. Sometimes I didn't understand a single word. But I never stopped watching, because each video felt like a key to the door I wasn't allowed to enter yet. I couldn't afford high-speed data, so I downloaded Freelearn to code PDFs at night on public Wi-Fi, and read them by a dim lamp in the morning after my night shift. I would sleep 4 hours a day. My eyes burned, my brain hurt. But my dream kept whispering, Ethan, if you give up now, you'll never forgive yourself. People laughed at me. My relatives said, he's just a guard, let him accept it. My friends said, you're not smart enough for tech. Even my father, one night at dinner, looked at me and said, son, some people are meant to dream, others are meant to survive. We don't have time for dreams. We need money. I didn't argue. I just nodded. But inside, I made a promise. One day, I will show you that survival is not the only option. One night, it got too much. I hadn't slept in 2 days. I couldn't understand a line of code. I was hungry, tired, and lonely. And as I stood under the office floodlight, holding my flashlight, I cried. Quietly, not loud, just tears falling on my uniform, because I felt like I was reaching for something too far, too high, and I whispered, is it really impossible for a self-taught programmer like me? At night, around 2:45 a.m., a man came out of the office early. He was one of the engineers, young, confident, clean-shaven. He saw me sitting with a notepad and stopped. What are you doing? He asked. I looked up and said, trying to learn code. He paused for a moment, and then smiled. That's brave, man. That's really brave. He didn't laugh. He didn't ignore. He respected it. That one moment, that one sentence, changed everything for me, because it proved I was not crazy. I was just early. From that day, my energy came back. Stronger, sharper, angrier. I studied harder. I started waking up during the day, too, just to read more. I stopped caring about what people said. I stopped waiting for support. I became my own teacher, my own motivator, and my own coach, because I realized nothing is impossible. But everything is lonely first. Part 2. The walls that don't move. My routine was brutal. Night shifts, coding lessons, no college degree, no mentor, no one to talk to. I was in a fight with nobody even knew I was bleeding. After months of self-study, I decided to build something, a basic website, just HTML and CSS. I spent 2 full weeks writing the code. Sometimes I didn't even sleep after work. I was that hungry. And then, with shaky hands, I clicked run. It crashed. The screen went white. Error. I tried again. Nothing. Everything I had worked on gone. I forgot one line of code. One simple mistake. And just like that, 2 weeks of hope disappeared. That night, I didn't go home. I sat on the stairs of the building I was guarding, head down, eyes red, heart shattered. I kept thinking, maybe they're right. Maybe this is not for me. Maybe some people stay guards forever. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a ghost. A week later, my father gave me an envelope. Inside it, a flyer for a local distribution center, hiring full-time warehouse workers. He said, "They offer $18 an hour with benefits. No night shifts. Maybe it's better for you." I didn't get angry. I understood. He wasn't killing my dream. He was trying to feed the family. But I walked back to my room that night with one thought repeating in my head. If I give up now, I will spend the rest of my life explaining to myself why I didn't try harder. I didn't make a speech. I didn't post motivation on social media. I didn't cry again. I reopened my laptop. I rewrote the code. I read more carefully. I tested one block at a time. I learned the hard way. You can either fail and quit, or fail and get smarter. That second time, the website worked. It was small, ugly, basic, but it worked. And for me, it was my Mercedes. Now, I had proof. I could do it. So I made a bold decision. I started applying for internships and junior developer jobs, even though I had no degree, no certificate, no connections, no fancy resume. I still sent my applications to over 80 companies across the country. You know what I got? 79 rejections. Some didn't reply. Some said I was underqualified. Some laughed. But one startup replied, "Your journey is different. Let's talk." That one reply was my doorway, not to the destination, but to the next level of war. I prepared for 7 days straight, practiced in front of a mirror, watched coding interview preparation videos, wrote answers in a notebook, repeated every sentence 50 times. When the day came, I wore my guard uniform, because I didn't own a suit or a dress shirt. The interviewer looked at me and asked, "Tell me about yourself." I didn't give a polished answer. I just told the truth. I work as a security guard, but I spend every night studying code, because I want to become something I've never seen around me. The room was silent for 5 seconds. Then he said, "You're not what we expected, but you're exactly what we're looking for." They hired me as an intern, minimum wage. But it was the first time I entered a tech office, not as a guard, but as a learner. That was the moment. I was still broke, still tired, still insecure. But now I had a chair, a desk, a laptop that wasn't mine. But the dream was. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was watching the world. I felt like I was inside it. I still remember the first day. I entered the building, not from the service entrance, but from the main lobby doors. No flashlight in my hand, no uniform on my back, just a cheap button-down shirt, and fire in my heart. People who once walked past me without a glance, now sat beside me in meetings. But it wasn't easy. They gave me a desk, a computer, a team, and suddenly I was inside the dream I had watched from the parking lot. But dreams are not always soft. They are sharp, and they cut you if you're not ready. Every day I battled, fear that I would be exposed as a fraud, insecurity about my technical vocabulary, shame about my clothes, my past, pressure to prove I belonged. My teammates had degrees from state universities. They had certificates. They understood things faster. Me, I Googled terms during lunch breaks so I wouldn't look stupid in front of them. One day, during lunch, a senior engineer asked casually, "Where did you go to college? Which university?" I paused and said, "I didn't. I was a night security guard before this." The silence that followed felt like a thunderstorm. Some looked impressed. Some looked confused. One just nodded and walked away. And that day, I realized something. The world may open the door, but you still have to prove you deserve to stay inside. That night, I didn't sleep. I went back to my old habits, practiced interview questions again, watched advanced tutorials, reread documentation, took free online coding courses. Because I knew this is not the time to relax. This is the time to become unshakable. I stopped comparing. I started focusing. I stopped explaining. I started executing. 3 months into my internship, I was given a small task to fix a bug in a live product. It was complicated. Others had tried and failed. And my manager said, "Try if you want, no pressure." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just took the code home and studied for 2 days without stopping. I broke down the bug, read Stack Overflow forums, ran tests, got stuck, cried, tried again and again and again, and finally, I solved it. The manager didn't say much. He just smiled and forwarded my code to the CTO. But that night, when I walked out of the building, I looked up at the skyline and whispered, "You see, I told you I don't belong outside forever." A few weeks later, my internship became a paid role. It wasn't a fortune, maybe $1,200. But when I saw the deposit in my bank account, I cried. Because that money didn't just represent salary, it represented proof. Proof that my pain wasn't pointless. My nights weren't wasted. My fire wasn't foolish. My dream wasn't impossible. I went home after many months. Same apartment complex. Same leaking faucet. Same small kitchen. But something was different. When my father saw me, he didn't ask anything. He just said, "You look different." I opened my bag and gave him my first check. He didn't cry, but his hands were shaking. He looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "I thought your dream was too big, but maybe I was just too tired to believe." There was no party, no big announcement, no post on social media, but inside me, a war ended. I was no longer the boy who stood outside the building. I was now part of the future. Part 3, From God to Guide. Years passed. The security guard uniform that once wrapped my pain now sat folded in my closet, untouched, but never forgotten. Today, I sit at a desk not as a god, but as a full-time software engineer. Not in a small startup. Not in a temporary role, but in one of the country's top tech companies. I now write code that reaches millions, lead teams that build global products, mentor interns who once sat where I did, walk through O'Hare and JFK airports, laptops in my bag, confidence in my step. And when I look in the mirror, I don't see a genius. I see a fighter. Sometimes I visit that old building I once guarded downtown. I stand at the gate where I once stood with a flashlight. I watch a new guard walk in, sleepy, quiet, unnoticed. I smile at him because I know, behind that uniform, there could be another dream silently burning. One night, while coding late, I got a call from my father. His voice was soft. "I showed your photo to everyone at the shop today. Told them, that's my son, a software engineer." He paused and said, "You made me proud, Ethan. But more than that, you made me believe again." I couldn't speak. I just cried. Because for the first time, my dream didn't just save me, it healed my family. I started writing my story, not to become famous, but to leave behind proof for kids like me. I titled it, The Boy Who Stood Outside, because that's who I was. A boy on the outside of the world, watching through the glass, believing that maybe, just maybe, he could find a way in. You know what the real lesson is? It's not about becoming rich. It's not about proving haters wrong. It's not about success. It's about not letting the world convince you that your dream doesn't belong to you. Because here's what I've learned. Talent helps, money helps, support helps. But the real power is this, a mind that refuses to quit, a heart that keeps showing up, a soul that doesn't care how long it takes. Now, after these years, my life doesn't look the same anymore. The boy who once counted quarters for laundry now earns a salary he once thought was impossible. Not luxury at first, not millions, but enough to breathe, enough to stand straight, enough to say, I made it this far. With my first real salary, I did not buy expensive designer clothes. I did not show off. I bought a new AC unit for my parents' apartment, a proper mattress for my father's tired back, a smartphone for my mother so she could call me any time, and groceries without checking the price tags. That moment, when my mother smiled without worry, that was richer than any car. Years later, I bought my first car. Nothing fancy, but when I held the keys my hands shook, because I remembered the boy who once stood on the sidewalk, watching other people's Mercedes pass by, and wondering if life would ever choose him. That day, life chose me. Not because I was lucky, not because it was easy, but because I didn't stop when it was hard. And that's when I understood the truth. Struggle changes you quietly. Success announces you loudly. Now, you've just heard the story. A boy with nothing, who proved that nothing is impossible. But this isn't just a motivational story. It's not fiction. It's history. Let me now show you real people who lived the pain, who were laughed at, who were told you can't, and still, they changed the world. Neil Armstrong, the first human to step on the moon. But did you know? He was once told space exploration is impossible. He didn't listen. He didn't just touch the moon, he walked on it. Albert Einstein. As a child, he couldn't speak properly till age 4. His teachers said he will never succeed in life. But he went on to change the laws of physics forever, because greatness doesn't need permission. Thomas Edison. He failed 1,000 times trying to invent the light bulb. When people laughed at him, he said, I didn't fail. I just found 1,000 ways that won't work. Today, the world sees light because one man refused to stay in the dark. Listen closely, my friend. People will try to stop you. They'll say, you're not smart enough. You're too late. You're from the wrong place. It's not realistic. When they say that, look them in the eyes and say, shut up. This is my life, my journey, my dream, not yours. Yes, situations will be hard. Yes, days will come when your hands shake and your heart breaks. Yes, you will cry alone. Yes, the world will ignore you. But guess what? The world ignores you until it can no longer ignore your results. Remember this, my friend. Today is a period of struggle, but tomorrow will be the period of success. So don't cry because it's hard. Don't quit because it's lonely. Don't stop because it's slow. Instead, get louder, get better, get obsessed, because nothing is impossible. And if no one believes in you, then believe in yourself harder. This is not just a video. This is a career motivation wake-up call. So, if this story made your heart beat louder, if it reminded you who you are, like it, share it, and comment below. I will never give up. And don't forget to subscribe, because this channel is not here to entertain you. It's here to rebuild you. Nothing is impossible. Now go prove it. And hey, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, clicking it is a whole lot easier than learning JavaScript by candlelight at 3 a.m.